Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comic review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our big show with a caveat, where we show you some of the biggest and best books that release this week to your local comic book store. So head on over to infinityflux.net right now. You can order these books. They're live and ready for you to snatch up.
That's right. Now, the caveat that Andy mentioned is that we're actually recording this first part on Friday, just so a couple days ago by the time you see this, because Andy is going to be gone this week, and you'll see more of that in a second. But
you'll see more of me gone.
Or you'll see less of you in a second, okay, I guess. Yeah. But we wanted to go ahead and record this first part on Friday because before Andy leaves, we wanted to talk together about Batman Deadpool #1. This is the next of the Marvel DC crossovers, this one published by DC. And yeah, this is a big one, so you know this one was too big for just one person to do, right?
Let you have all the fun.
That's right.
So you just got done reading this a few minutes ago. Yeah. I read it a little bit earlier today, and we had to talk about this. Of course, it would be our #1 book of the week, no matter what. And this one is really interesting. I'll say I really liked it, especially this one has a very prominent A story.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big A story is Batman Deadpool, written by Grant Morrison with art by Dan Mora. So you know it's going to be an interesting story, like you said, and it's going to look great as well. My first thing that I want to put out there is stick with it. You know, this is a very, very Grant Morrison story. So when you start reading it, you might have some questions. Just keep reading, keep turning those pages, and it all will more or less makes sense by the time you get to the end of it.
Like I read it, and then when you got here, I was like, just like it's not going to make a whole lot of sense at first, but by the time you get to the end, it does kind of all come together, and it kind of reveals itself as it goes through it.
Right.
It's hard to really explain the story. We can say this is not a continuation of the previous one.
Definitely not, because we were a little bit iffy on that. This definitely, and that's one thing too. Try to deprogram your brain from what you read of the previous Deadpool Batman book. This has nothing to do with that, and they don't even act like they've met each other before in this one, so they're completely separate. They couldn't be more separate.
Yeah, and this one, I remember them talking about in the solicitation and all that. They're like, this is going to be one of the wildest stories you read all year, and that is true. This does have kind of that narrative thing of the multiverse is chaotic.
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't always congeal together perfectly, and what happens when two characters are kind of stuck in this nebulous in-between state.
Yeah.
That's all really cool. The framing device for this is wild. It was like a cosmic level thing in a very weird way.
Yeah, it's super weird. There's a character in this that I thought that I literally said as you were sitting next to me, I said, "Is that blank?" And you're like, well, they don't really say for sure, but it kind of infers that. Yeah, it's very, very out there. I mean, but it's one of those where it doesn't make sense all at once. It's sort of over as you turn the pages, you start to realize, oh, that's what this is. Oh, that's what that is. You know,
it even kind of goes. There's a part where like there's a big shocking page with Deadpool and Batman, and even Deadpool at this point is like, we'll get back to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you kind of know at that point, this is going to be one that like you're going to piece together as it goes along. But by the time it gets to the end, it's still crazy and wacky, but you understand why things were the way they were and all of that. So yeah, it sounds weird for a story to be like, read it till the end, but with Grant Morrison, when you start it, you're going, am I getting any of this? Is this just nonsense? No, there is actually a lot of really interesting substance to this.
Yeah, and you know, I'm definitely going to read it again because I read it pretty quickly so that we could do this. But like you said, like it's a hard story to describe because I don't even really know like the beginning, middle, and end, like what they were doing, where they were doing. You know, we do see that there is an antagonist that is causing some of this craziness. But I couldn't even tell you like what they're doing. You know, it's a little bit weird, but it's still really good.
Yeah,
you know, with all that said,
you're kind of like, that almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like the A to B to C story, not really the important part. The important part is the kind of the journey along the way,
right.
and the reveals and the kind of nebulous place that they are at is all kind of more interesting than whatever the story could be.
Yeah.
Also, if you're familiar with Grant Morrison, his writing for both Marvel and DC, that has a really fun payoff in this.
Correct.
That I think is like, I get why you got Grant Morrison to write this, because it's a really cool amalgamation of a lot of their ideas and everything from previous stories. Once again, art fantastic. Dan Mora knocking out of the park. There is a scene, because you kind of flip through it to begin with, and I was like, I don't want you to spoil something.
Oh, that's going to get spoiled too before Wednesday. And that's a bummer.
That's the bummer, because...
Try to avoid spoilers for this.
Yeah.
Because there is one page, because I didn't get spoiled because you warned me, and then I turned the page, I said, whoa, that's that thing, and so...
Yeah, and... Man, what that could possibly mean for the future.
Probably nothing.
But it's real good while it's
cool,
here.
Yeah.
Now, there is other stories in this. You didn't get a chance to read them. I read them. You've got your Harley Quinn and Hulk story. I don't know if the A story in here is longer than
felt pretty
the
long.
previous one, but it did feel at least denser.
Yeah.
So it did feel like, it took me longer to read it than the A story from Deadpool Batman. So we have the Harley and Hulk story. That's only like 2 or 3 pages. We have the Static and Miss Marvel story. That maybe is only 2 pages, maybe 3. We've got my other favorite one was maybe the Laura Kinney Nightwing.
Yeah.
That one is really fun.
I flipped through a little bit. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Bruno Redondo and Tom Taylor coming back to work together.
Yeah, it's a fun team up between those two. They both kind of get equal billing on that one. And then you've got the Constantine and Doctor Strange story, which is about as weird as you can imagine, but it does show...
Is it weirder than the A story?
No.
Okay.
But it is cool because it does kind of address the differences in magic from one publisher to the other one, where Doctor Strange talks about like all the bright and all the stuff, and Constantine's like, this is dark stuff. Like, magic is not okay. It's not, even, Constantine refers to himself, he's like, I guess I'm kind of the Sorcerer Supreme where I'm from. Like, that's all really fun.
Yeah.
And it does have some other characters in it. Some other crossovers that I thought was really fun. Almost so much I was like, I wish we got that story.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a couple of them.
Yeah, and I was like, that would have been a really cool story. Yeah. But yeah, this was, I think this is great. And I think this is not just a rehash of what the Deadpool Batman was.
Right. Oh,
this definitely brings
different.
its own flavor to it.
It's so different, yeah.
And I enjoyed it. It's almost hard to compare them because they are wildly different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But still really fun. I think Deadpool in this is it's Grant Morrison's interpretation of Deadpool. So a lot of his meta jokes even kind of went over my head.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really fun as well. And I'm, after these two, I'm really looking forward to the Superman Spider-Man we're getting.
And whatever else may come.
We
will go ahead and tell you that there are no surprise stories in this like there was in the previous one. In the previous one, there was a couple of smaller stories, like 2-page things that hadn't really been announced. And there was the logo story. And I will say that there's nothing like that in here. Everything that's in here had already been announced. So no surprises or anything. We'll go ahead and tell you that in case you get your hopes up and then you read this and you're like, man, there's no other. Yeah. It's just, it's everything that was already, everything that we told you about. That's all that's in here.
Yeah. But with that being said, I do think that the Batman Deadpool story in here has more surprises
that's true.
The main story from the previous one.
That's true. So that kind of helps make up for it. There is a couple surprises where, when you realize, there's not an extra story. Well, there's not, but there's some really cool stuff in that A story that you don't know about. Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
So I think it works out really, really well.
Yeah, so for this recording we're doing on Friday, we didn't bring any variant covers, so I will show you that here in just future me will show you that here. We'll show you the variants here in just a minute.
You have a lot of confidence in future me.
I know, right?
You're really setting them up for something
future
good.
the future me has is going to be flying solo on Monday, and there's a lot of books coming out, so.
Yeah, so, I can't say stay tuned because it'll go right into that here, but this is a big week, so stick around.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm not here.
Yeah.
I'm elsewhere.
Yeah, so have fun. Future me is going to be really mad when you get back because having to read all those by myself, but we'll make it happen.
Back to you, future you.
Thank you, Past Matt and Andy. That was an excellent overview of the main story from Batman Deadpool #1. I couldn't have done any better myself. But on top of that, there are 4 other backup stories in this book that I want to tell you about real quick. And the first one of those is a team-up between John Constantine and Doctor Strange. And this story is written by Scott Snyder and James Tynion and Joshua Williamson, and the art is by Hayden Sherman. So that is an all-star cast of comic creators working on this story. And in this story, it seems that the worlds of magic from both the DC and the Marvel universes have become entangled. So Constantine visits Doctor Strange to see what they might do about that. But maybe Constantine has an ulterior motive for being there as well. And this story is cool because there's some cool imagery in it. We get some glimpses at other characters from both DC and Marvel interacting with each other, so that's always fun to see. So a great story from some great creators there. We also have a story featuring a team up between Nightwing and Larkin Wolverine, written by Tom Taylor with art by Bruno Redondo. So that is that's your team on Nightwing, and of course Tom Taylor had a run on Larkin Wolverine as well. Nightwing and Wolverine, like I said, they team up because they are looking for Wolverine's sister Gabby, who went missing while walking her dog. They do track her to the sewers, and they eventually come into conflict with a well-known Batman villain. I won't tell you who it is, but you can probably figure it out. And that's all really cool. But the thing I like best about this story is that the whole time, whether they're searching for Gabby or whether they're fighting this villain, Nightwing and Wolverine are making observations about each other, and it's pretty remarkable how much they have in common. So that's a really cool story. It's actually my second favorite story behind the main Batman Deadpool story in this, so that's a lot of fun. After that is a fun short story from Mariko Tamaki with art by Amanda Connor that sees Harley Quinn and the Hulk chasing a robot who smashed a hot dog stand and then ran into a chemical plant. They're going to have to try to see what's up with that. And then lastly in this book is a story featuring a team up between Static and Miss Marvel, and that's written by G. Willow Wilson with art by Dennis Cowan. And that story features those two heroes taking on a giant mutated sewer monster, as one does. So that's really cool as well. So that's it. Like we said on Friday, there are no surprise stories in here. There are some surprises in the main Batman Deadpool story, though, which kind of makes up for it. But there's no extra stories. It's just the main one and those 4 others, and that's it. But still, a really cool book, a really nice addition to the ever-growing catalog of DC Marvel crossovers. I really enjoyed it, and it makes me even more excited for the books we're going to get early next year, the Superman, Spider-Man books, and then whatever else may come out of that. So yeah, definitely can't wait to check those out as well. So there are a bunch of variants for this, so I'm going to try to get through those real quick. So this is our A cover right here. And then we have, this is the other Dan Mora variant, and this is a wraparound with Batman on one side, Deadpool on the other. We also have this Lee Bermejo variant. This is one of the ones that I pre-ordered, I think, because that one's really cool. We have this, Mark Brooks, Scarlet Witch and Zatanna variant, which looks great. This is the Jim Chung Wonder Woman and Captain America cover. I ordered one of those as well. We have the Amanda Connor, Harley Quinn, and Hulk cover, and that's kind of what that story looks like in the book. And then we have this, oh my gosh, Nick Dragotta doing a Batman Punisher. Can't quite tell if that's absolute Batman or just, regular Batman, but either way, that is a really cool team-up. This is the Andy Kubert Robin and Gambit, and I love that. I mean, I feel like that could be a story right there just to make Gambit charge up the big playing card in the Batcave. This is the Jay Lee This is the, I believe that's Big Barda and Rogue cover. We also have the Jim Lee Batman Wolverine. It's always a good time when Jim Lee draws either of those characters. This is the Alexander Lozano Wonder Woman, and I guess Miss Marvel. That's Carol Danvers, but that's not Captain Marvel. I guess that's her Miss Marvel persona. This is a kind of a nice little. Oh no, this is Sean Gordon Murphy. This is Lobo and Deadpool. We also have this Frank Quitely Batman Deadpool cover. And then, so here is your Bruno Redondo Wolverine and Nightwing cover. So that's what that story looks like. And then this is your Hayden Sherman Constantine and Doctor Strange. So that's what that story looks like. We also have this Bill Sienkiewicz homage cover with Batman and Deadpool. Then we have the Sozomaika Catwoman and Emma Frost cover. And then here, I think I pre-ordered this one too. This is just the virgin foil version of the A cover from Dan Mora. And then after all of those, we have the blank sketch variant if you want to draw your own DC and Marvel characters teaming up together. All right, so before I move on, now that it's just me, I just want to tell you real quick that I'm flying solo. Obviously, as you can see, Andy is out of town this week, and there are a ton of books to talk about. I think I took home 35 books to read, and I managed to read 34 of them. So lots of stuff to talk about. And because it's just me, and because I have to be done by the time the store closes, because Andy's not here with me, I didn't pull any variants for any of these. So all the rest of these books, I don't have variants to show you. However, if you go to infinityflux.net, you can see what variants we have. So, don't think that there aren't variants. I just didn't pull them for this because there's already so much to go through. So we are going to move on with Nova Centurion #1. This is written by Jed MacKay and the art is by Alvaro Lopez. And this is hot on the heels of the Imperial event, which just wrapped up. And this issue starts with Nova saving a civilian spacecraft from getting sucked into a black hole. And the way he does it is really cool, but it takes a lot of energy, and it costs credits to replenish his energy. And that was explained in the Imperial event, but I don't quite remember what that explanation is, so I need to go back and try to figure that out. So after he saves the ship, he asks the occupants of the ship for donations, but they all scoffed at him, and it's a pretty funny scene. They're like, I can't believe Novas have been reduced to this. So while he's on that ship after he saved it, he runs into Pip the Troll, who I love from the Warlock and the Infinity Watch days in the early 90s. And Pip tells Nova that Nova needs an agent to help him find work so that he can earn credits, so that he can replenish his energy. And Pip volunteers to fill that role himself for a measly 10%. It's such a nice guy there. So the book then jumps forward 3 months in time, and Pip finds Nova a job. And it's one that Nova does not want to take, but he changes his mind when he learns the details of the job. And I don't want to tell you too much about what that job is, but it has ties all the way back to the original Annihilation War, which I thought was really, really cool. So this is a good start to a new Nova series. I've always liked Nova, and it has been far too long since he's had his own book. It's really been too long since we've seen him anywhere. He's only popped up here and there. I do want to go ahead and tell you that you do not need to have read the Imperial event to read this, because Nova wasn't even really in it all that much. You could maybe go back and read the Nova one-shot from that event if you want, because I think that's the book that explains why he needs money to replenish his energy, but I don't quite remember for sure. But, you don't really need to know anything about what happened in Imperial because it's not referenced in here. There is a new status quo for the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe, but that doesn't really play a factor in here. So, new Nova Centurion #1. Can't wait to read more issues. And again, there are variants for this. Just check them out at infinityflux.net. And then moving on from there, we have Capes #1. And this is really cool. So this is written by Robert Kirkman, and the art is by Mark Englert. And what's interesting about this book is that, let me see if I can raise that up some too. I thought I had that. There we go. What's cool about this book is that this is a reprint of the original 3-issue Capes series from 2003, but it's not an exact reprint. It's actually more like a remastering. It tells the same story from that series from 22 years ago, but it has updated artwork and updated dialogue as well. And on top of that, the first 6 issues of this series are going to reprint slash remaster the 3 original issues from back in 2003, and also some backup stories that ran in Invincible for about a year back then. So it's basically gonna compile all that together, and that's gonna be the first 6 issues of the series. But then, starting with issue number 7, it's going to tell all new stories. So it's going to just continue with a brand new story. So Invincible fans, if you didn't read this 22 years ago, and I didn't read it back then either, you can grab this now and enjoy more Invincible. Between this and Battle Beast, Invincible will live on, and especially since we have the animated series as well. So this issue introduces us to Capes Incorporated, which is basically a company that employs a lot of different superheroes. We meet this hero here. His name is Bolt, and he is taking down a villain named Medallion, and then he later gives a tour of the company to a young new hero named Kid Thor, who we briefly saw in the animated series, if you've only seen that. And then there's a bit of a mystery setup when the hero known as Captain Cosmic shows up at Capes Incorporated, and he is severely injured. But what's weird is that he actually died 15 years ago. So why is he there now? We'll have to, read and find out. There's also cameos from villains like Machine Head and Titan, who, we have seen in the animated series and who Invincible fans will know. So that really helps to make it feel like this is part of a larger Invincible universe. This issue was a lot of fun. It didn't really do anything major, but it's always fun seeing, more parts of the Invincible universe. And like I said, I didn't read the original series back then, but I'm definitely going to keep reading this. And I'm really looking forward to issue number 7 that has brand new stories in it. That's going to be really cool. And I think it's going to be this team that keeps going even after the first 6 are over. I think Kirkman and Engler are going to stay on it and give us more stories. So Invincible fans, definitely check this one out. And then, I'm really excited to talk about this one. So this is the Spider-Man Holiday Spectacular. This is written by Rainbow Rowell, and the art is by Luciano Vecchio, Paco Medina, Nathan Stockman, and Bob Quinn. And I love holiday books. This is just a one-shot, and I thought, this will be fun. This will be a fun read, and I'll make a couple notes and that kind of thing. I ended up loving this so much. This is probably my number 2 pick of the week out of everything I've read so far. So the issue starts with Spider-Man at the Baxter Building, attending a Hanukkah party that the Fantastic Four are throwing. Ben asks him if he has any big plans for Christmas, and Peter says, "Not really. I'm just gonna do what I do every year and hang out with Aunt May." And he really does enjoy doing that. But then shortly after that, Aunt May calls him and says that she is taking a cruise on Christmas, and that she's really excited to do that. And she says it's going to be good for her, and she says it'll be good for Peter too, because then he can hang out with his friends on Christmas instead of being stuck entertaining an old woman. And those are her words. Like that's how she put it. And that kind of bums Peter out though. Like he's kind of depressed about it because he wants to spend Christmas with his Aunt May. So he goes home and he goes to bed. And the next day, Carol Danvers calls him and invites him to a Christmas party that the Avengers are throwing at the Impossible City. And so he does go to attend that. And then from there, the entire book is Spider-Man getting invited to different parties and going to different parties all around different places that are all being hosted by different heroes. And he's really confused by all this because everyone at every single party he goes to is very, very happy to see him, like almost overwhelmingly so. He knows that he sometimes annoys other heroes, but he knows that they're being genuine here. He knows they're not just like putting on a show, like they really are glad to see him, but he doesn't quite know why. He doesn't know how they know that he has no Christmas plans. He doesn't know why they're so overly excited to see him. And I don't want to tell you anything other than that, but it is a really fun and a heartwarming story, and it's a really nice change of pace because I actually don't really like how Spider-Man is portrayed a lot of times when he teams up with other heroes, especially if it's not in his own book, because a lot of times he's depicted as like overly annoying, kind of goofy, kind of dumb. And he's not, right? He's Spider-Man. He's one of Marvel's best characters. He's really smart. He always has a lot to offer in every event that the heroes face. So to see him not treated that way, and to see everybody like so welcoming of him, is a really, really nice change of pace. It's also fun because there are lots of other characters in this. It's always fun to see who is at what party, who is interacting with whom, and what they're saying, and that kind of thing. There's some really funny conversations in here. And then just this is kind of a smaller thing, but I've always loved stories where Spider-Man wears regular clothes over his costume, and he does that a few times in here. There's one party he goes to where he's in full costume, but then he has a ugly Christmas sweater over it. There's another one where he's in full costume, but also wearing a tux over it, but still with the mask and everything. And I just think that kind of stuff is really fun. So I did not expect to like rant and rave about this book. But I really, really loved it. I actually didn't pre-order it, but I'm gonna buy it off the shelf on Wednesday because this is so good. I have a stack of holiday books that I keep in my box of ornaments, my box of Christmas tree ornaments. That way, when I put the tree up and I open the ornament box, I have a stack of holiday books there, and I always read those. Not all at once, but I read those throughout the holiday season. And I'm going to buy this and put this with that stack of books because I love this so much. So if you like holiday books, or if you're a Spider-Man fan and maybe you don't feel like he's been treated so well lately, definitely pick this up. And this is a really nice breath of fresh air. Wait, let me put this over here. And I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. And then moving on, we have X-Men of Apocalypse #1. So the number 0 issue came out about a month ago and was mostly set in the Age of Apocalypse universe and kind of set up the story of how the X-Men from the Age of Apocalypse universe get to the 616 universe. Well, now in this issue, they're there. They're in the 616 universe, and they come face to face with Nate Gray, X-Man. And this is set back at right after the original Age of Apocalypse. So this is not like it's a brand new book, but the story fits in with the original Age of Apocalypse story, or rather what comes right after. So it's one of those like retro miniseries. So back then, like Nate Gray was supposedly the only character who moved over from the Age of Apocalypse universe to 616. But now these other guys are here as well. And they're like, why are you here? What's going on? And they try to figure it out. They do have the obligatory fight because they each don't believe that the other is who they say they are. And then they finally stop and talk to each other. But it's not long before Wolverine and Bishop enter the fray, and they call the other X-Men for some help. And we get another obligatory hero versus hero fight that is, again, the result of a lack of communication. And it's really cool because it's the 90s X-Men. So you got Cyclops with the yellow strap, and you've got Bishop and I don't remember who. Storm is there, and Iceman, I think. And so yeah, it's like 90s X-Men. It's nostalgia basically. And the X-Men of Apocalypse, so there's a big fight, and that's most of what this issue is misunderstandings that lead to fights, right? But the Age of Apocalypse X-Men do end up in a place that I'm very interested to read more about next issue. It's and they encounter characters that I don't know. It's hard to explain, but they go some place, and there are some characters there, and it's going to be cool to see those characters interact with these characters. So can't wait to check that out. So if you like the first issue, don't miss this one this week. And then we're going to move over to Image, and we have a new one called Final Boss. This is the first issue. This is written and drawn by Tyler Kirkham. It's his creator-owned book. And this issue introduces us to a man named Tommy Brazen. He's an ex-government security specialist who now takes odd enforcement jobs and participates in underground fights in order to earn money because he was fired from that job. I'm going to explain all that here. But he keeps having dreams about his grandfather, who was a soldier in World War II and who used to tell him stories about how he found this mysterious temple on an island back during the war, and how he fought and bested a god after he angered when he angered that god after he took a relic from that temple. And Tommy as a kid never believed him, but he thought it was a cool story anyway. So that's a little bit of backstory here, but a lot of this issue takes place during this big fight, underground fight that Tommy accepts at the last minute. One of the other guys couldn't participate, so he's jumping in instead, and he's going to take on this guy. And he fights this big hulking brute named Chain Pain. Kind of sort of looks like Bane a little bit. Like he's got this like weird mask, and he's like just really huge and built. He's like 7'2". He's all muscle, that kind of thing. And the fight is actually really brutal. It gets pretty brutal. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but we do learn something special about Tommy during this fight that I really can't wait to see play out over the rest of the series. It seems that I'll tell you this. It seems that Tommy is not just your normal fighter. There's something extra, something special about him. So it was really fun. It's a pretty simple story. It feels like it came right out of the '90s, but that's not a bad thing. Tyler Kirkham's art is really good in this. I think he kickstarted this. I think he put this on Kickstarter a few years ago, actually, because I heard about this a long time ago, but I've never read it till now. But I'm glad that it's finally available via comic shops because, like I said, I always wanted to read it. Now I can. So I'm definitely going to stay on this one because of what happens at the end, and then we see some. I'll give you a hint. We see some numbers at the end, which I'm really excited to see how those numbers affect the story. So good new, just fun, like action packed. It's not too deep. It's like I said, it feels like a '90s book, but that is not always a bad thing. So, Final Boss #1, check that out. And then we have another new #1 from Mad Cave. This is called Ferocious. This is written by Luke Piotrowski. The art is by Emmanuel Ercolani, and this is a fantasy book. It's about a boy who witnessed the slaughter of lots of people in his village. By this woman, by this monstrous looking woman. She's got horns on her head. And she is part of a race of beings called the Feral. I mean, she's humanoid, but she almost looks like demonic or draconic, I think is what the solicitation described her as. And this boy is the only survivor of this like mass slaughter of his village. And so he's a small boy, but he's like he decides he's going to kill her himself. Grabs a weapon, goes after her. And of course, she catches him, but she decides to keep him as a type of pet. She doesn't kill him. And she decides that she is going to train him on how to be a warrior. So basically, he is going to learn how to kill this woman from her. She's basically, he's going to like learn everything he can so that he can then turn around and kill her. This one was a pretty quick read. It's a bit of a setup issue, so it'll be cool to see the next issues. But yeah, brand new book from Mad Cave. They put out some really good stuff, so don't sleep on this one. And then we're going to jump back to Image and talk about Spawn: The Dark Ages #1. This is going to be I believe, a 6-issue miniseries. This is written and drawn by Liam Sharp. And this feels like a classic Conan story meets Game of Thrones with a little bit of Spawn thrown in for good measure. It's set in the year 479, and the newly anointed king of Britain, Aurelianus, that's his Aurelianus. He is trying to figure out how to defend Britain from all the other kingdoms that surround it. So he goes on this journey to find and to make a pact with a being that he calls the Devil Spawn. And the Devil Spawn does agree to this pact, but he has some demands of his own. He's like, you're going to have to do this, 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 and this, and then I'll help you. So this book is pretty dense. But that is the overall gist of it. Again, mostly a setup issue. The book is him going on this journey, finding this devil spawn, making that proposition, and then we'll have to see, actually what happens in the next issue. I mentioned that it feels partly like a Conan book, and it looks like one too. The artwork is gorgeous. I mean, this looks like a modern day Barry Windsor Smith Conan book from Marvel Comics from 1970. Like it's really nice. It's really detailed. It's a beautiful book. So Spawn fans or fantasy fans, medieval fans, definitely check that one out there. So for the next few minutes, we are going to look at all of our various tie-in issues. We have a tie-in for DCKO. We have 5 tie-ins for Age of Revelation, and then we have the main One World Under Doom book as well. That's wrapping up. So first, we're going to look at Titans #29, and this is a DCKO tie-in here. And just like last issue, this issue continues to deal with the Titans helping to evacuate Earth, but the team has split up and they're handling different parts of the evacuation. And we spend half the issue with Nightwing and Raven and see that they've evacuated some people to Gemworld with some help from Amethyst. And everything seems to be fine, but they don't really know what to do next. But they don't have long to think about it because there is somebody there who wants to take Gemworld for themselves, and they just pick the worst time to do it, basically. And then the other part of the issue focuses on Starfire as she leads some more evacuees through space. but she comes face to face with Granny Goodness and the female Furies, and that's what we saw at the end of last issue. She's definitely outmatched, but luckily some backup arrives to help her out. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this issue. I liked it pretty well, but it doesn't really contribute much to the main DCKO story, with the exception of the last page that kind of sets up the next issue, which is the big fight between Cyborg and Swamp Thing. So if you only want to read the main DCKO event, then you'll be okay to skip this. But if you're wondering like what the other heroes are doing while this tournament's going on, and you want to see what the people of Earth are doing while Earth starts to turn into a new apocalypse, then you can find all of that in here. So yeah, not super necessary, but it does help to flesh out the story of DCKO. And then moving on to the Age of Revelation books, we have the Last Wolverine #2. And in this one, Vindicator asks Leonard, who was Wendigo and who is now going by Wolverine, that's him there. She asks him to accompany her into the heart of the Revelation territories to rescue Logan. And Leonard immediately agrees, and then they ask Nightcrawler for help as well, but he's a human now. And it's a bit of a tough sell, because if he enters the Revelation territories, the X virus will make him remutate into his blue furry self, right? But he eventually agrees, and they head off on their rescue mission. I don't really want to tell you what happens, but I will say they do find themselves in a pretty brutal confrontation with a villain, and Vindicator has another plan that she didn't tell Leonard about. So this one's a pretty cool book. This doesn't really contribute much to the main Age of Revelation storyline either, but it is telling the story of how they are going to try to break Logan free of Revelation's control, which could contribute to the main story, if Logan ends up being linchpin to that. So, it doesn't seem like it affects it too much, but, Logan is a central part of this. So if you want to find out about that, definitely check this one out. And then we have Omega Kids #2. And the first part of this issue starts similarly to the previous issue, with Quentin Quire continuing to work with the Omega Kids, teaching them how to scan people's minds to try to find anybody plotting against Revelation. And part of this training is learning how to do this without the people whose minds they're scanning knowing that they're doing it. But they do find one person who knows what they're doing and is able to stop them. And Quentin kind of gets freaked out by this and demands that they leave that person alone. But later the kids tell him that they found an entire sleeper cell of rebels, which Revelation is not happy about when Quentin goes to tell him about it. And then there's more in this book, and there's a couple surprises as well, but I won't spoil that for you. This book isn't really hugely important to the main Age of Revelation storyline either, but I'm still enjoying it. And just like in the first issue, these kids are such powerful sidekicks that you don't really know what's real and what's not. And the fact that the youngest child is pretty much a complete psycho is wildly interesting and just really funny. So yeah, it's another pretty decent issue of Omega Kids there. And then we will move on to Radioactive Spider-Man. And the first few pages of this issue are cool because they take place on Revelation Day, and when the X virus was first released. And we see in it's chaos in New York when that's happening, and Spider-Man's trying to save people, but he's also trying to find May and MJ. But then it cuts to present day in the Age of Revelation era, and Peter's stressing about how to help Aunt May. And I'm not going to tell you, if you don't know, I won't tell you what's wrong with her, but if you saw it in the end of the first issue, you know. So he's going to head out to Rand Enterprises to get some more supplies and equipment to try to help her. But while he's out, he runs into some of Revelation's goon squad, like Revelation's police force. Not the Seraphims, but these police guys. But he gets some unexpected help dealing with them in the form of Ghost Spider and Miles Morales, who is now calling himself Spin, which is interesting. So they all take care of the goons and head back to Spider-Man's hideout. But Peter and Miles are at odds with each other because Miles can't believe that Peter is keeping May alive. I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like May maybe was responsible for the death of Miles' family, and maybe we'll learn more about that next issue. I don't know for sure. And this series doesn't contribute to the main Age of Revelation story either. And it's definitely skippable if you only want to read the main part. But it is still one of my favorite tie-ins. Spider-Man's my favorite character. I always want to know where he is and what he's doing during these big events. So it's just cool to see him in this one. So there's your A cover there. And then we've got Unbreakable X-Men. And I actually liked this issue a little bit better than the first one, and it made a little bit more sense than the first issue. But I still don't really know what's going on because I haven't been reading the current Uncanny X-Men series, and maybe if I had, maybe this would make more sense. But it seems like there's some kind of demon named Shivaric that breaks out of the realm of the dead and comes to the land of the living. And at some point, the Outliers, who are the kids that are kind of like the main characters in Uncanny X-Men, at some point they had made a vow that if she ever came back, they'd get together and stop her. So most of this issue is Gambit, Temper, Ransom, and Spider-Girl going to find the other Outliers and bringing them back to Haven House so they can all stop Shivaric. And they all fight her at the end, but I didn't really understand a lot of that battle. This one also doesn't really contribute. This doesn't contribute at all to the main Age of Revelation storyline. So this one, again, is skippable if you want to do that, if you're only wanting to read the main story. But the artwork is really good. I really, really liked the artwork in Unbreakable X-Men #2 there. And then the last one I really liked. This is X-Men Book of Revelation #2. And the beginning of this issue shows Elbecca falling from Revelation's tower after Cortez threw her off of that tower at the end of last issue. But it's not a spoiler to say that Kitty Pryde appears and saves her. And then afterwards, Kitty tells Elbecca the truth about Revelation, about all of the bad things that he's done. And it's here that we see how Kitty became this ghost-like figure that she is in this series. We see how that happened. Elbecca does eventually go back to Revelation and tells him about something bad that Cortez did. I don't want to tell you anything beyond that, though, because there's a big surprise at the end of the issue that I did not see coming. Makes me really excited to read the next one. So this is my second favorite Age of Revelation tie-in after Amazing X-Men. And I do recommend reading this one, even if you're only wanting to read the core books. I do recommend this book as well. It does focus a lot on Revelation, which seems kind of important. And the surprise that happens at the end of this could very well play a factor into how the entire event ends. So, good story, good artwork, and a pretty big story as well. So, highly recommend that one. And then remember this. This is One World Under Doom #9. This is the final issue of One World Under Doom. We learn Valeria's fate after what happened to her at the end of last issue. It's not a spoiler to say that Doom is no longer Sorcerer Supreme at the end of this. I mean, we all know that because they have the new Sorcerer Supreme book coming out. It's been all over the solicitations. But we do learn his fate. And it sets up future stories as well, so that was really cool. And it also does a little bit of setup work for that new Sorcerer Supreme series coming in December that is going to feature Wanda, Scarlet Witch, as the new Sorcerer Supreme. So a little bit of that at the end of this. But yeah, if you've got all the other One World Under Doom books, don't miss the last issue. It is out this week. And then we have Absolute Flash #9. And in this one, Wally agrees to team up with the Rogues to rescue his dad from Thawne. And they concoct this plan to get him. But on the way back to the base that he's being held at, something very strange happens to Wally, and Grodd has to help pacify him. And the Rogues think they have the element of surprise, but actually they are the ones that are met with a surprise as certain truths are revealed. We'll say that much. And we do learn a little bit more about that weird portal that we saw last issue, and it seems like that's going to play a big part in the next few issues to come. So don't miss the next issue of Absolute Flash there. And then we have Marvel's alternate universe book. This is Ultimates #18. And in this one seems pretty big. So in this one, Tony Stark delivers a message to the entire world and tells them everything, basically, from who the Ultimates really are, not like their identities, but like who they really are, what their real goal is, to how the Maker and his council basically stole the world. And while the citizens of the world are listening and kind of like waking up, like absorbing this truth, we see various members of the Ultimates in different situations. Some are fighting battles, some are taking care of personal vendettas, and we also see some new heroes as well. Nothing crazy, but we see new heroes like the prisoners that Luke Cage has been working with. We see Doom's new Fantastic Four kind of standing there watching this broadcast. So, they're getting ready to like fight the establishment because Ultimate Endgame is coming at the end of next month. And I want to go ahead and tell you this now because we mentioned this. I want to say we mentioned this the other day. I don't remember when, but Ultimates 19 and Ultimate Endgame #1 both come out on December 31st. And I will, we'll talk more about those later when those come out. But I want to go ahead and tell you now that Dennis Camp actually said to read Ultimate Endgame #1 first, and then read Ultimates number 19 after that. And again, we're like 6 weeks away from that or more, so don't worry about it right now. We'll talk more about it later, but I wanted to go ahead and put that out there, just for when the time comes. So, Ultimates number 18, things are coming to a head, and we are inching ever closer to Ultimate Endgame. And then we have Amazing Spider-Man number 16. And in this one, this is the Norman Osborn Spider-Man story. The even #1s are that. The odd #1s are the Spider-Man in space stories. And in this one, Norman as Spider-Man has a run-in with Tombstone, and the new villain. My autocorrect changed it. This new villain here, whose name is Plague RX. My autocorrect changed it to Rex, but it's Plague RX. Who has a really interesting ability, and it kind of messes Norman up a little bit. Tombstone tells Spider-Man that he's worried about him because because ever since he got his butt kicked at the hands of Hellgate, he's been acting a little bit differently. So while all that's going on, we see Ben Reilly, who is struggling with the idea of Peter getting the credit for all the work that he's been doing at Rand Enterprises, all the breakthroughs he's made and things like that. So there may be something to come there. And then Jonah reaches out to May to check on her, and they have dinner, but she's not really happy with him, so more to come there as well. So yeah, just the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man is out this week. I prefer the Spider-Man in space stories, but you Norman Osborn fans have it good this week. And then what I'm really excited about, Captain America #5. This is the final part of the first story arc, okay? So this is the last issue not the last issue of the series, but it's the last issue that takes place in the past. And then starting with issue 6, it's going to be a brand new story set in present day Marvel Universe. So this is the last part of this first story arc. Captain America finds out what David Colton has done, and they have a confrontation, let's say. And Cap also has a confrontation with General Ross about the entire mission till that in the first place. America's involvement in helping install Doom as ruler there. So, Ross isn't real happy with him. Cap isn't real happy with Ross. But it's a really cool ending to this first story arc. I've been loving this series, and hopefully you have as well. So don't miss the last part of the first story arc there. And then we have Punisher Red Band #3. And the first thing I want to say here is this issue is way more violent than either of the previous 2 issues. This one actually is worthy of the Red Band polybag. And in this one, Frank is still being controlled by the Kingpin, who's also controlling Microchip. But Micro convinces Kingpin to let Frank rest for a bit, and he uses that brief period of rest to send Frank some clues as to who he really is, because Frank doesn't even know his own name. He's being controlled. But Microchip sends Frank some clues as to who he is, in the hopes that he can save himself, right? So hopes that he can get out from under the Kingpin's control. And there's also a really brutal interrogation scene involving Tombstone and the old lady who helped the Punisher in the first issue. This Tombstone in this book is a lot more violent than the one in Amazing Spider-Man. There's, no, that's not it, but it's the same character in both issues, but Tombstone in this is just way more violent, so it's pretty cool. So I'm continuing to enjoy this story, or this series. It's pretty violent. Classic Frank Castle's back, and it might be next issue where Frank frees himself from the control of Kingpin, and that's going to be really cool. So then we have Twilight Zone #2. This is written and drawn by Tom Scioli, who did who's done a lot of work, right? He did the Stan Lee graphical biography. I think he did the Jack Kirby one too. He's done a whole bunch of cool stuff. And this book feels very 1950s sci-fi, and it even looks like it. It's all black and white with a very slight blue tone. But other than that, it looks like a 50s. It looks like a classic episode of Twilight Zone, I guess. It's about this group of scientists who is traveling through space looking for a habitable world, and they do find one. And it seems great at first, but then they notice that all of the life they encounter on that planet very closely resembles whatever they're thinking at the time. For example, somebody thinks about a moth, and then a few minutes later, they see what looks like a big giant moth flying around. So that's a little bit weird. And things only get weirder and more dangerous from there. And then the ending makes you question everything you just read. because it's Twilight Zone book, right? So the original horror anthology, I wouldn't say this is really horror. This is just like psychological sci-fi kind of thing, but it's really cool. So Twilight Zone fans, don't miss that issue there. And then we have Disney's Mickey Mouse, The Phantom Blot's Revenge, #1. And this was originally published in Topolino number 2608 in Italy back in 2005, but this is the first time it's ever being printed in the US. The villain known as the Blot terrorizes the town that Mickey and Goofy live in by creating clones of everyone. And none of those clones know that they're actually clones. It's very Spider-Man clone saga, right? But it causes chaos because there's multiple versions of everybody running around and nobody knows who the real thing is. And the Blot is demanding $1 million to make the clones go away. And then he repeats that scheme every single day. And Mickey and Goofy have to find out who the Blot is and how to stop him. So really cool. Just a fun, one and done Mickey Mouse story. Yeah, I liked it. It was really cool. A little mystery, trying to figure out like what's really going on. And then we have all new Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider #4. And in this one, Ghost Spider and Agent Anti-Venom face off against Tantrum at Rikers Island Prison. And Agent Anti-Venom should be able to cure Tantrum, right? Because he's a symbiote, right? He's Gwen's original symbiote. And that's what Agent Anti-Venom does, is cure symbiotes. But Tantrum is able to do something that they weren't expecting, which causes some problems for everybody, right? So a really cool issue of Spider-Man. This has been a fun series. There's lots of action in this, some cool artwork. So a fun book there. And then we have Deluge #2, and this is from Ignition Press. And you guys have heard me and Indy talk about Ignition Press. Don't sleep on their books. They have a lot of good stuff out right now. And in this one, this is the story where there is a women's prison that has flooded. And in this book, it continues to flood. But to make matters worse, there's something in the water that's killing everyone that it sees. And we do get a look at what we don't know what it is, but we get a look at it. And it's terrifying. And as the prisoners try to get to safety, we get a brief glimpse as to what some of them did that caused them to wind up in prison in the first place. So yeah, really cool story. Like it's weird because it seems like almost like a crime noir book, but then there's this thing in the water that's kind of really out of place, but it's really interesting. So yeah, Deluge #2 from Ignition Press. Like this is really cool. All of their books have been great so far. And then we have Justice League Red #4. And in this one, Red Tornado finally tells the team why he's brought them all together, and it leads them into a confrontation with Black Adam, which we've known is coming for a while, but it's starting to build to a head now. And this does have a little tiny bit to do with DCKO, but not enough that I would consider this a tie-in. So there's been a couple things. I think the League of Comic Geeks app labels this as a tie-in, but it's not really. They briefly mention a couple things that's happening, but it's not affecting that story at all. So don't feel like you need to read this if you're reading DCKO, but it's still a pretty cool story, and it's only going to get crazier next issue as they fight Black Adam. So there's that there. And then I've really been enjoying this series too. This is Predator Kills the Marvel Universe #4. And in this one, the Predators continue their assault on Earth and take out more heroes and villains. Wolverine and Nightcrawler take out a few of the Predators, while the people at the Weapon X program send Predator X, which is the Predator that they put through the Weapon X program. He's got like the Wolverine, like the Weapon X helmet with the thing on it, and he's got like claws and stuff. They send Predator X to New York to join the fight against the Predators. This is definitely in its own continuity. Nobody is safe in this, but this is a really cool story. So there is that one right there. And then we have Starship Godzilla #2. And in this one, the crew of the Starship Godzilla crashes down at a spaceport at their home. I think it's where they live. And they start repairs on their ship. And they need money to do it, to repair their ship. So they bet on this race where a cannonball is shot into space and this fleet of ships chase after it. And whichever ship comes back with that cannonball first is the winner. And people bet on that to try to win money. But the cannonball that is launched into space is actually a beacon that attracts all manners of alien life. And the creature that is attracted in this issue is a very familiar one. And it's really cool. So this has been a fun series. The whole Godzilla shared universe that IDW's been doing is really cool. So there is Starship Godzilla #2. And then we also have G.I. Joe number 14, which is part 2 of the Dreadnought War. And almost this entire issue is a big action chase scene with a bunch of Dreadnoughts chasing Duke and Cobra Commander. It actually kind of reminds me of Gunpowder Profits from a week ago, only on a bigger scale where the whole thing is just action, right? There's gunplay, there's explosions. Duke and Cobra Commander are jumping from one vehicle to another. It's really cool. It's really exciting. And don't forget, while this story is running, it's bi-weekly. So we will get the next part just 2 weeks from now instead of once a month. So that is really cool. So there is part 2 of the Dreadnought War right there. And then we have the final issue of New Gods. This is number 12. And this kind of just puts a bow on the whole series. But it does leave things open for more. So it could go either way. Ron Villa said that he has more plans for this story and these characters, but nothing has been announced yet. So I'm crossing my fingers. I've loved this, and I hope we get more. There's gorgeous artwork from Evan Cagle. So yeah, if you've been reading New Gods, do not miss the final issue. It is definitely worth it. And then we have Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 45. Just want to talk about this one because this is the first part of a new story arc called The Merger that sees Lex Luthor and the Joker teaming up, but in a very unconventional way. And if you've seen some of the preview artwork, it's really cool. It's going to lead to something really cool happening with Batman and Superman that we haven't seen in a while. So yeah, I just want to talk about this book every time it comes out because I love it so much. You can read these free and clear of anything else. These aren't really connected to anything. Unless, they're in the middle of their own story arc, maybe. But World's Finest is such an easy book to pick up. I love it. So it's fun. It's action-packed. There's great artwork. And this is the start of a brand new story arc with 2 of the biggest villains in the DC Universe. And I've got 5 more. I don't have notes on these, but I just wanted to just tell you real quick that they're coming out. We have Exquisite Corpses, number 7. We have Ghost Pepper, number 5. We have Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe, number 5, which is the final issue of this series for now, but there might be more later, so last issue there. We have The Guy in the Chair, number 2, from Dark Horse. And then last but definitely not least is Superman Unlimited, number 7. This is the only book that I didn't get to read because I haven't read the previous 2 issues. I'm behind on those. But yeah, Superman Unlimited, number 7 comes out this week as well. And guys, that is it. So sorry for the weird video. Blame Andy when he gets back. We'll all yell at him and tar and feather him. But yeah, I just wanted to go through all of those with you real quick. Sorry about not having any variants, but again, there's just a lot to go through. But please do check out infinityflux.net and you can see every variant that we have for all of these books here. You can see those on the website. You can order them right now. They are available to order right now. You can use in-store pickup, come in and grab them on Wednesday. You can have them shipped to you if you're in the US. So yeah, check out infinityflux.net for all these books, all their variants, and even more. This is not everything that comes out this week. This is what I brought home to read. So guys, again, sorry for the weird video, but thank you for hanging around and sticking with me. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, or turn on notifications, share the video, whatever whatever you do on YouTube. And I will be back again, Soul, on Wednesday with the top 10 comics to pre-order in a flash, and then Andy will be back on Friday as we talk about more books that you can pre-order this coming weekend. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye bye.